For the break, I hope you're going to enjoy that. I'm going to be in Southern California talking about drought with water managers. Hossein is not here yet. He's supposed to be here. He's supposed to be here with your homework. So we'll see if that happens by the end of the class. I'm going to actually go over some of the homework answers now because there was a considerable difference between what I was looking for and what many of you wrote. And that's going to be disappointing because you're all going to get, or you all, the people who didn't answer the questions the way I wanted are going to get poor grades. So I'm going to try and explain that today. Just as a note, yeah, did everybody turn in the briefing on Canvas? If you missed it, of course, you're going to get 0 points. Now, some people emailed me the briefing through Canvas, and some people submitted it called Briefing 1 Submit. So that was the correct way to go. Emailing it through Canvas to me was not the correct way to go. I'm not going to do anything about it. It's just a pain for me. But next time, please submit online with the actual assignment, okay? Don't send me an email through Canvas, and especially don't send me an email, okay? It just makes handling the paperwork easier. Readings, take notes please on this one. Over the break and before the midterm, as in on the midterm, the Gordon Hanson paper, 1954 or 56 or something like that, as well as the Tragedy of the Commons paper, which I'm not sure if I assigned, but it's certainly assigned now. That's Hardin, 1968. I'll write that down with my never-present chalk. Okay, so I'm talking about Gordon. 1954, Hardin, 1968. These papers are very old relative to me as well as to you, but that actually is in your favor because back in the 1950s people wrote in English in academic papers. Now they write in gibberish. They don't write in language. We're not sitting in the back row anymore. So I'll talk about those readings when we get back on the week before the midterm. Now, the homework, I'm just going to show you one of the diagrams in the homework, but I'm going to get in particular, the key is posted on Canvas, by the way. But I'm going to please don't sit in the back row. That one anymore, no more. All right, you guys are in charge of that back row. I'm tired of that. Okay, so when I said describe how a good can go from having public good characteristics to common pool characteristics using supply and demand. Okay, think of a specific good. The good I'm going to use, I think it's quite a good example, is a swimming pool. Okay, a swimming pool is good. Shoes, not good. Okay, so how do we go? The thing is, what I wanted you to do on this exercise is apply what we know to be the characteristics of a public good, which is what? Public good is what? Rivalrous, yeah. Non-rival and non-excludable. Excellent. Non-rival, non-excludable. Non-rival, non-excludable. Okay, and then when a public good goes to a common pool good, which of these things changes? Which of these changes? Common pool good. It's rivalrous, yes. Non-excludable but rival, okay? So rival, non-excludable. Common pool, public good. Okay, so that's what we know as the characteristics. How would you show that on a supply and demand curve? Well, the way I think about it is that you're going to have a supply, and the supply is going to be so abundant that everybody can get what they want without actually any cost. And so that actually kind of looks like a supply curve like this. This is supply. It's free, and there's a certain amount of it, let's say this much, okay? Can you police the back row there? The people who are next to you will tell you. Go ahead. So If it is a public good, there is enough of it for everybody, right? So that all of the demands are met, no matter what their demand is, right? Everybody can get as much as they want. The price is zero, you get as much as you want. It's non-rival, it's non-excludable. That doesn't, you don't really see that right here, but basically it means that if you want it, everybody here who has a demand for a seat can sit down, right? There's all these seats are free, right? Even the back row for our surge, our last-minute surge, are free. So that's actually my definition, or applying the definition of a public good to the supply and demand curves. Now, what's going to happen if that's going to become a common pool good? If we're going to go to rival, what would happen here? Is supply going to change or demand going to change? Pen spinner. You. Yeah, you. Yeah. Is supply or demand going to change? Actually, both can change, but demand is going to change. Is demand going to get bigger or smaller? No. Right now, there's some demand, and everybody gets what they want. I'm not quite sure I understand about money, because it's still free. But supply or demand, what we're looking from is rival to non-rival. Or the other way around. Non-rival to rival, right? What's going to happen? So if demand is demand going to increase or decrease? Is it going to increase or decrease? Demand. I'm going to ask you, demand. Huh? Okay, demand's going to increase. For example, something like this. Okay? There is more demand at a price of 0 than there is supply at a price of 0. For example. All right? You can draw it many ways. That's one way. And if it's a common pool good and there is no exclusion, you have essentially more demand than supply at the price of 0, right? So now some people are going to get the good and some people are not. Given what I just drew here, given the definition. Okay? Does that make sense? This is how we want to use these definitions when we talk about demand and supply. The world, if you go outside the doors, the world doesn't have little curves in front of your face, right? Although if you know, sometimes people think that way. But that's essentially, that's the essence, that's the idea of what's going on, okay? So that's why we want to keep this in mind. And what happens here is that you're going to have a problem. Some people are not going to have their demand met, right? That was the whole nature of this assignment. And what I did is I said, okay, how would you transform it into a club good? One method to transform it into a private good. Which one comes with which? Just anyway, any reason. Well, say that there's a swimming pool. It's very nice. And, you know, you guys all go to the pool and you actually are enjoying it. It's free, the water is clean, etc. And then you tell your friends, and your friends tell Twitter, and they tell your text messages, and it goes on Facebook, and then everybody shows up at the pool, right? That's one way. That's one way. You could actually decrease supply, leaving demand constant. You could decrease supply down to here. Same problem. Okay? Yeah. The demand curve should be flat? No. It's okay. It's a public good and what? But the price, if we have a demand curve like this, that's what you're saying, not upward sloping, a flat demand curve is what you're saying. So at this price, there's infinite demand. Is that what you're saying? It should be over where? Come and show me. Come here. Today's our lucky day. Everybody's here today. Come on down the back row.
It should be here.
This should be the demand curve?
Yeah.
No, the demand curve is the value to you. This is the value of going in the swimming pool, right? The value has nothing to do with the price. If you like really swimming, you're up here in demand. You don't have a zero value. You like swimming. Yeah? Okay, good. All right, great. So now, for those of you who showed up late, I'm going over homework 2. How do you transform it into a club good or private good using Coase or Ostrom? Okay, Coase is Mr. Property rights, in a sense, right? You assign some rights and you're done. Ostrom is, hey, let's all hang out together, we'll be a community, okay? So club good, Ostrom, private good, Coase. That's the things that I wanted you to take away from their articles that they took, you know, whatever, 100 pages to say. But how would you do that? Okay, you have this situation here. How would you privatize this good to improve that situation? Auction, sure, right? You say, oh, everybody wants to get in the swimming pool. Well, you bid $1, $1. I mean, as soon as you bid $1, actually, you lose a whole bunch of demand, right? Or you bid 20, you get up to $20, right? So at some point, the price will go high enough, and you auction. This is the key idea. You auction a fixed quantity. I've got 100 entrance tickets to the pool. I've got 2,000 tickets to the concert, whatever it is, right? I've got 5,000 places to come into Simon Fraser. So you have a limited supply, you auction it, and basically what you do is you're going to get a kink in the supply curve. It's free up to here, and now we just kink it up, right? That's just the way to have that. Because the price will be determined in the auction. You could set a price administratively, but that could be wrong, right? Say this is the auction price, and I say, oh, I think I have got too much demand for supply. I'll set a price here. Well, now you set the price too low, you still have the problem, a common pool good. Okay? If Starbucks has 25 cents cappuccinos, there's going to be a line all the way around the block, and they're going to run out of coffee, right? So they go, $3, and people are like, oh, I don't want to go there. Sorry, you're the 17th people. This was I should sell those back seats, actually, speaking of auctions. Those are the most popular seats in this class. It's excellent. Now, that's one way to do it, private good. Club good. How would I do a club good? What? But how would I make it into a club good? Cat in the Hat. How would I make it into a club good? What? No prices. Not a price item. How would I make it a club good? You? Yep. A monopoly for only one firm? Okay. And so say that you're the firm. You have the good. What would you do? Almost, not exactly. A club good is going to be non-excludable and non-rival. No, what am I saying? It's going to be excludable and non-rival. So it's a little bit like a monopoly, okay? Say that you start a club. You start the pool club. And you say, well, let's see, I'm going to let all my Facebook friends come in, as long as you have fewer Facebook friends than pool spaces, right? Or I'm going to let people who pay me money come in. That could be more like a market. Or I'm going to let people with my same last name come in. There's all kinds of ways of doing a club. The key is that with a club good, you limit access, which is excludable, and then there are not as many people in the club as there is supply, right? So it's non-rival and excludable. That's how you could do that. That's what we've been talking about with the fishing permits and all that stuff, right? Or any kinds of, we'll talk about it over and over and over again, right? Licenses for mining, licenses for telecom spectrum, all of those things fall in that same category. Okay? All right, now, the trick of the homework, which a lot of you got wrong, is that you have to carry through with this logic to question 3, question 4, and question 5. From what Hossein told me, that didn't occur to a bunch of people, which is going to be depressing, as I mentioned before, in terms of lower grades. But that's why I'm going through this now, so that you understand what the homework was. When you, let me just make a footnote about homeworks, about assignments in general. If you're having problems, you can send me an email. You can come to office hours, right? Definitely send me an email. You can call me on the phone. Don't call too late, okay? But if I didn't know that a whole bunch of people didn't get questions 4 and 5 right until Hossein was grading. I had no clue because they were misinterpreting the question. That meant everybody who misinterpreted got 0 on those questions, okay? So if you're having troubles with the homework, you can ask your friends. That's fine. It doesn't hurt to ask me, okay? I got lots of emails about should I bring a hard copy today or where the hell do I submit that stuff. So I understand you can reach me on logistical stuff. You can also reach me on these economic things, right? So what happened is, who are the winners and losers from each transformation? If you move from a common pool to some kind of restrained good, the winners are people who end up getting the good in a way, right? The losers are people who don't get the good. It's just not that it's not more complicated than that, okay? The winners are the people who get seats. The losers are the guys who are standing up, right? There's some more seats, though, luckily, for these guys. That's it. It's not more complicated than that, okay? You don't have to talk about surplus. I mean, the surplus is really, greater than 0 and 0 in that sense, in terms of consumer surplus. And then I said, if you're a politician, how would you allocate those goods? If you're a politician, how would you allocate those goods to maximize public benefit? The way you would allocate them is through some kind of mechanism that takes this into account. You want to allow the good to get to the people who value it the most. That is how you maximize the benefits, okay? Now, one way to do that is to say, do you really like the good? Yes, you do. Okay, do you really like it? Yes, you do. Do you really like it? Yes, you do, except you're lying to me. I can tell, right? You can ask people, sorry, I know you're telling the truth. You can ask people how much they care about something, and they can tell you anything they want to. But if you ask them to take money out of their pocket, pay me $5 to back up your beliefs, then you will see if they really agree, okay? I'm not talking about, do you want to stay alive? Pay me $5 if you want to stay alive. I'm talking about, do you want a cup of coffee? Do you want to come in the pool, okay? This is not a question of social rights or law or justice. This is a question of allocating an economic good to people who can pay money for it, right? And excluding other people. So what you do is you're going to have an auction if you're a politician, you're going to have an auction to make sure that the people who value it the most are going to come in. Or you could have a first in time, first in right. You can say, if you line up, you get in first. All right, so whoever sleeps overnight gets into the pool for first. The rich person might come along and pay that guy at 8 o'clock in the morning, gets out of the limo, pays the guy $50, and it doesn't matter. That guy still gets in. That's okay. You have some kind of rationing mechanism. So what I put here in the answer key is that if a politician is going to allocate this to maximize social welfare, number one, it's going to go to the people who value it the most. Number two, there's going to be some revenue for that. And I said you can put the revenue in. You can pay for public goods, real public goods like law and order, like police, right? Or anyway, things like that, national defense and so on. What would a politician do who doesn't care about social welfare as much as himself, personal welfare? What would I do if I'm corrupt? I'm corrupt now, and I've got access to the pool. What would I do in terms of allocating those places? If I don't care about what's good for society, I only care about what's good for me. Let me ask you a different way. This is the demand curve here. The people above the line have a higher willingness to pay than the people below the line, right? Okay. If I want to maximize public welfare, do I make sure that these people get into the pool or these people get in the pool? Below the line? Other way around. If I want to maximize public welfare, I want to maximize the surplus for her. and the maximize the surplus for her. These are all surplus measurements, right? All the people here, they have all this consumer surplus if they get in. If I put these people in, instead of these people, and remember, actually, let me go all the way down here, right? If I go here, let me draw it again. Demand, supply, okay, the supply is constrained, and I have group A and group B. The price is going to be free, okay? The surplus to group A is bigger or smaller than the surplus to group B? Everybody. A is bigger or smaller? Bigger, right? Social welfare maximization, A or B? A. How I get to A is an important question, okay? But if I'm a politician, it's very clear I need to get these people in the pool, right? Okay. Now, if I don't care about social welfare, I say, hey, you know what? B is fine. Because I don't care about society. I only care about myself. Now, here's an interesting way of thinking about that. If A was going to be allocated by price, I could collect a lot of revenue from everybody in A. I could set a price of this high here, because everybody is above that price. Do you see how everybody's above this price here? You see how that's everybody? So I set that price. Everybody has a demand that's greater than that price, or a willingness to pay that's greater than that price. They all pay the price. Social welfare is maximized. Now I have a pile of money. Now, if I care about social welfare, I might put that money into law and order. I might put it into free immunizations to kids. I might subsidize higher education. If I'm corrupt, I'm going to put the money where? Yeah, where am I going to put the money if I'm corrupt? Sounded good. What was I going to say? Where would I put the money if I was corrupt? Huh? In my own pocket, yes. That's the simple version, right? Or I spend it on buying you coffee because you're my friend, right? I take all the money from everybody and I give it to you. I don't put it into public goods. I don't put it into social benefits, right? If I'm corrupt, I put it in my pocket or I give it to my friends. Now, there's two ways of doing it. The first one I just talked about. I sell it to A, I put the money in my pocket. The other way to be corrupt is to sell it to B and not sell it to A, right? Or give it to B, because the people in B pay me bribes. The B is the bribe people. They pay me a bribe, I put it in my pocket, I let them in. All these guys don't even get in, the guys in A, right? This is what happens when the oil minister has a offshore oil minister has a concession here to sell to a company, and instead of putting it up to an auction, he just sells it to his buddy for $5 million when it's worth $50 million. It's worth $50 million, but he doesn't auction it. He just sells it to his friend for $5 million. He's got money. Oh, wow, but we made $5 million. I'm not corrupt. Here's $5 million. That's more than zero, that's true, but it's not 50 million, right? There's no transparent way of knowing who's willing to pay that. So I'm just as corrupt selling it to these guys at their willingness to pay as I am giving it to them, really. That's why we talk about open auctions for government contracts and for resources like oil and fisheries and timber and so on. Okay? That's the point. If you said something like that in your homework all the way through, as I just discussed, you will get 5 points. But it seems like some people didn't get those points. They talked about other things. And that's going to be fewer points. Okay? So that's the review of homework 2. I don't mind going over that because these lessons are pretty much the entire point of you being in this class. If you can walk out of this class and do this discussion with anybody on the street, your parents, your friends, your boss, then you've learned everything you really need to know about resource economics. Okay? This is really important. That's why I'm really spending time on it. Okay? Any questions on that or other things before I get back to fisheries? People who came in late, by the way, those are the 2 readings that you need to do before the midterm, okay? I suggest you do it over the break, although they're only, Gordon is about a dozen pages and Hardin is about 4 pages, okay? Yeah. The Dolan book. Just the introduction and chapter 1 of Dolan. Dolan is mostly for after the midterm because he talks a lot about environmental economics, okay? I will assign Dolan, be sure, right? Probably the day of the midterm I'll say go start reading or whatever, right? If you want to read Dolan, please go ahead. Take good notes, take little notes, take some notes so you don't forget later on. It's okay. It's a very nice book to read. Yeah. Yeah. Were you raising your hand? Yeah, go ahead. I call you. No, it's not everybody. Yeah. Well, I just did it actually here. I'll do it again nicer. So I'll just do supply like this because it looks more like you're used to, okay? And no, I don't want to do that. I want to do it just like I did before. A club good is non-rival and excludable. Once you're in the club, you can get the good. For what price? When you pay your rent every month, you pay the rent, now you're part of the apartment club, right? You got your key, you walk in your house. How much do you pay to walk in your house when you pay your rent? 0, free. When you join the golf club and you pay $18,000 a year, and you show up at the front desk, you say, I've paid my $18,000. They say, come on in. $5. They don't say $5. They say free. A club good is free. So the supply curve is going to be down here. By the way, I've never seen this presented this way in economics, which is maybe why some of you had a hard time with it. But it just follows from the words. What I said is, when I said, I want you to be thinking hard about this assignment, I want you to think about the words and how they apply. So it's free, but there's a limit because it's a club. You can only have a pool that's this big, or a golf course that has this many golfers, or whatever, right? So you have a total supply, which is going to be limited, and then you're going to have some kind of demand. Now, you know that everybody likes to go to the swimming pool, so the demand is actually greater than supply at this price, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to charge a fee that somehow you're going to charge a fee, and you're going to limit access to the goods. So you're going to have a supply curve that goes like this. Now, this actually implies a price. But it's not really like that in terms of you're setting a price, okay? And this is going to be a little bit complicated to think of, but what's happening is you want to, it's called a two-part tariff. A two-part tariff is when you charge one fee, like you want to go to the bar, and you're a guy, right? Or a club, more importantly. You're a guy, you go to the club, girls are free, guys are $10, right? I've been to places where the girls pay and the guys get in free, very dodgy clubs. Right? They happen, right? You know where? I'll tell you where they happen. So let's think about this for a second. Two-part tariffs. Why do you go to a club and the girls are free and the guys pay money? Why? You're a girl, you tell me. Why should you get in for free and I have to pay? You seldom go to the club. Okay, so when you show up, they should let you in for free. If there's a bunch of girls, there are more guys. Now, what do gay clubs do? Oh, no. Gay clubs charge everybody, right? Because if you want to get into a gay club, you're gay, you want to meet gay guys, right? So it's lesbians and gay. You're a guy, you want to meet other guys. It's like, there's other guys in there. Now I have to pay to get in there, right? And the guys who pay are like, I'm going to pay so other guys are in there with me. So the guys figured it out. That's the gay thing. But the girls are like, I'm not going to pay. And the guys are like, come on in, come on in, come on in. And then, of course, when you have those clubs, usually it's about 80% guys and 20% girls because they work there, right? So the opposite example, why would the girls pay to get in and the guys get in for free? There's actually two examples of this, and you should not know about either of them because you're all very good children, right? Your parents don't know why you know this answer. Two-part tariff. Strip club, yep. Guys walk in for free. The girls at the strip club, if you don't know this already, girls in strip clubs are just like taxi drivers. It's crazy, right? A taxi driver, he doesn't own the car. He pays $100, $200 to lease the car for a shift. And the taxi driver has to pay $200 for 8 hours. And then all the money the taxi driver makes, he keeps in his pocket. A stripper pays $50 to get on stage, and all the money she makes in tips and toonies and stuff or whatever, I think you can give a concussion to a girl by throwing one of those coins, right? All the money she makes, she gets to keep. That's how it works with strip clubs. The other group is very famous in places like Russia, which is in the news these days. Where are all the prostitutes in Russia right now? Obvious question. This is resource economics. We're talking about a scarce resource, right? Are they going to be in Kamchatka? Who's following this stupid news? Have you heard of this place? Where's this place called? Sochi, right? All the reporters are over there feeling very, deprived because they have no toilets, actually. They have real problems. Russian construction. So all the prostitutes are flying into Sochi to make money, right? But when they have a gentleman's club in Sochi, and I guarantee they have at least one, if not 20, the gentlemen walk in for free, and they're all foreigners. They all have a lot of money, right? And the girls are paying to get in because they're going to go find a guy. They're prostitutes, right, mostly. There are some that are not prostitutes, but they don't go to clubs like that, right? So that's the exact same thing as a stripper. So anyway, two-part tariff. A two-part tariff means you charge a chunk of money up front, the entrance fee, and then you charge very little once you get in, or nothing once you get in, right? So what happens here with a two-part tariff is you're taking a chunk of surplus out called the membership. You take a chunk of surplus out. On the margin, there's no price on the margin, but you take that chunk of surplus out so that what you're getting is you're only getting people who have that much surplus to give. So here's another way to think about it. If I let you in the pool for free, if you have this demand and I let you in the pool for free, then you're happy, right? But if I let this guy in the pool for free, he's also happy. But if I say, I'm going to charge you a membership fee, and then you get to swim for free, and the membership fee is bigger than some relationship with this, because you have to think about multiple swimming opportunities. You have to think, how often do I swim, right? Here's a good example. If this person gets a utility of this much from one swim, and this person gets utility this much from one swim, but this guy swims 20 times a month, and this guy swims one time a month, who is more likely to join my club if I have a fee? The guy who gets a little bit of utility from one swim or the guy who gets a lot of utility from one swim? Who's going to join the club? I'll ask you. The guy who often swims. Yes, right? Because actually the real demand for swimming is the single swim times the number of occasions, right? So I say it's $100 or whatever. I say it's $20 to get in the club. And this let's say this is $2 and this is $5. If it's just a single swim, Mr. $5 is in. But if it's the membership is $20, then the guy's swimming 20 times. That's $40 of surplus, of value. $20 is cheap. But $20 to get $5 is not worth it, right? That's exactly what we think about when we do this two-part tariff. Do I want to go in this club? It's $20. Am I going to get enough surplus or whatever? Or am I going to join this membership? That's the exact same thing. So that is a very long answer for your club good question, right? What you want to do is you somehow want to cut off demand and then allow everybody who's in the club to get access to this amount. In fact, you want to cut it off, whatever, here, so that all these people can get their demand met without actually running out of supply. Okay? It's a good question because it's a very complicated answer. Hopefully it wasn't, I tried to make it simple, but you get it. Just think about strippers. Okay? Any other questions? No, the price of the intercept here or where? Over here? Here? No. What I said is that this would be the entrance fee if I was going to ration it as a private good. The club good was different. Okay? What the club good is I want to take a chunk of demand. I want to get those people in the club. I don't charge them this fee per swim, but this is the kind of calculation that goes on behind it. So it doesn't just, what you do is you just cut it off. On the homework, I drew it like this. Here's supply. This is supply. I can't draw a straight line. And I said, here's demand, and I said limited membership. So I just took a piece of the demand curve, and I said the people who are in the membership are allowed to demand, so to speak. It's an ugly graph, but that's the way it is. If this was difficult for Hossein to grade, but you were actually saying something. So actually, if you said something like I just said in terms of drawing supply and demand, then you would be in good shape, and you should get full points on that particular question. If you didn't, then come and see me. Okay? But I realize that it's very hard to kind of think about this. The idea that I wanted is that in a club, you allow a piece of the demand in your club, right? That's why I drew a piece of the demand curve. And if you lost a point but you learned the lesson, that might be the best point you ever lost. Okay, so I'm sorry about that. Or I'm happy about that if you learned the lesson. Yes? Okay. Other questions? All right. Okay, by the way, more logistics, and we're going to run out of time before whatever, but luckily we're okay. Okay, we only have 10 minutes, in fact. Okay, so the briefing, grading the briefing. Saved by the bell. Thanks. After class, I'll hand these back to you outside, okay? Because we don't want to, or a little bit, because I don't want to take the room. Okay, so when you're grading the briefing, the most important thing I want you to think when you're reading someone else's briefing is, I know nothing about this issue. I'm a decision maker. I need to learn about the pros and cons of pipelines, any pipeline, a new pipeline that's coming to me next month that nobody here has ever heard of, okay? An abstract pipeline. This will help me understand the pros and cons of pipelines, the costs and benefits of pipelines, and then I will be able to make a decision. That's your job as the reader. Okay? Your job is not to say that pipeline is not 1,400 kilometers long, it's 1,395 kilometers long. That's not your job. Okay? You never know, right? So you're going to read it, and you're going to say, oh, is this helping me understand something? Why am I doing peer grading? There's two types of peer grading I realize after assigning this. One type is where I give you an assignment and I ask you 2 plus 2 equals whatever, and then you put an answer and she grades whether or not you said 4. Okay? That's machine peer grading. You are a machine to grade him and so on. This peer grading is you already wrote the assignment. You worked on the research to try and figure this out. You have your own ideas. Now you're going to read 3 other people's ideas and you're going to say, wow, I understood differently or the same or whatever. That's a good idea or a bad idea. Peer grading, in this case, is how you learn from each other. That's why I'm doing it. I'm not trying to save myself work. I would not assign this if I wanted to save work. Okay? So read it and learn from the other people. I suggest you take all 3, which we will email to you later today, hopefully. You take all 3, print them out or look them on your screen, read through all of them, then go through and write up a lot of comments in your responses. You can say, this is good, this is bad. It shouldn't be very long. It's like a page or something like that, okay? You could say good, bad, and ugly, whatever you want to do. Is it a page? Did I say on the syllabus how long? I wouldn't say very long. Like, it's certainly not long, not 2 pages, okay? You're supposed to give them some feedback, complete sentences and so on. And then after you've done all that feedback, then go back and say, okay, which one of these helped me the most as a decision maker? That's an A. Which one of these helped me the least? That's a C. And the one that's in the middle is the B. Okay? It's not very complicated. You only get to do one A, one B, and one C. You don't get 2 A's, you don't get 3 B's. It's 1 A, 1 B, 1 C. Okay, that's how I want you to do the grading. Okay? And you're going to submit these write-ups in 3 separate files on Canvas. Okay? There is 3 separate Word documents. There is a briefing assignment 1A for the first one. It doesn't have to be your A grade. It doesn't matter what order you do it in. Then there's briefing assignment 1B. Are you looking up the assignment on your computer, or is that what's going on? It's not a computer? It's a big... No, not you. The girl in front of you. Okay, do that later. Okay? No one else is looking. They have good memory like you. Okay? There's going to be assignment 1A. There's going to be reviewer 1B, and there's reviewer 1C. You upload 1 file for each one. Okay? Don't email it to me, please. It's a pain in the ass. All right. Any other questions about the briefing? If you have another question on the briefing, you have until a couple days after the break. You can hand it in tomorrow. I don't care. You can hand it in the middle of the break. You can hand it in from China. Doesn't matter. If you can get past the Great Firewall. Is Simon Fraser available in China? Yeah? Okay, good. So the government wants you to do your homework. That's the main idea. All right, let me, in 5 more minutes, finish briefly on fishing. We had an excellent presentation by John last week. That is, the video's on the net, on the same place as all the other videos, plus his slides are there, which he said he would say. Couple things. Fisheries and fishing science, right? Fishing science is the study of this species. It's an environmental discussion in a sense. Fisheries traditionally has meant catching fish as a resource, right? Forestry is the way of cutting down trees. And forests, or the forest sciences of how trees grow and they die and the ecosystems and all that stuff. Remember that we're always looking at the resource, but we're also going to be looking at the environmental side. When people are fishing with dynamite, they throw a dynamite in the... I've seen this happen in China when I was there a long time ago. They throw it in, boom, a whole bunch of fish die and they come up to the surface. It's true, right? Now maybe the wrong fish, right? Maybe there's a big hole in the ground and the river doesn't work very well. There's the resource, which are the fish. There's the damage, which is the environment. In the tropics, they dump cyanide in the water. And the fish the tropical fish, all these crazy shaped fish, they pass out. They try and pick them up. They hope they live because they want to sell it to people in Los Angeles who have tanks full of fish. Like they have little tropical fish. If you go to the dentist, those little fish, for every 1 fish that makes it into a tank, about 10 die. Now, when the fish come up to the surface, of course, all the stuff that's on the bottom of the water, all the plants and all the little thingies, they all die too. Cyanide, it's poison. Environmental impact, okay? I already said shark fin soup. You cut the shark fin. Okay, the shark is dead. That's a huge problem. But the shark is also part of an ecosystem, right? It's an apex predator. So what you get is the wrong species starts to take over the ecosystem, and it could crash the whole ecosystem, right? That's an environmental impact from a resource called sharks. You take all the turtles off the Galapagos, you lose a main source of food from XYZ animal, or the plants expand. In Yellowstone Park in the United States, the oldest park in the United States, it's over 100 years old, they killed all the wolves. Wolves do what to farm animals? Huh? What do wolves do to sheep? They kill the sheep. They eat the sheep. Now, if you're a sheep farmer, you don't like that wolf. So they shot the wolves, they poisoned the wolves, they destroyed where their houses were. So great, now my sheep are okay, but now the elk population explodes. The elk eat all the trees. The rivers start to degrade because the trees are gone and all the dirt runs in the river. Then all the rivers are full of dirt. The fish die because there's no oxygen. Shooting the wolf kills the fish. That's weird, but it's true. Right? That's one of the more simple ecosystems. I just read this morning a review of a book. A guy was talking about fish farming and salmon fisheries, which was similar to what John was talking about. And the guy said, hey, by the way, salmon hatcheries to hatch little salmon, I've seen this around, you can see it around Canada. You hatch little salmon around Vancouver. You dump it in the river, they go downstream, and then they grow up and they can come back and they can be caught because it's a resource. And a fisheries biologist, who was not John, made the point that is keeping the fishery on a life support system as a commodity. But the ecosystem depends on not having a dam there in the first place, right? Then you don't do anything. The fish just reproduce themselves, just like wolves will, or elk will, or people will, right? I'd be very concerned when people start to try and control the number of people, the type of people out there. That's also part of it. Who likes shrimp? Shrimp? A lot of shrimp now are farmed shrimp. They're in Vietnam, for example, all of the mangroves are the trees. You have the Vietnamese coast, and they have all these areas here where they have these mangrove trees. A mangrove is a tree that puts its roots in salt water, and it protects the coast. And it has the fish, they grow up inside the roots, and you have an ecosystem, and it protects the coast against storms and hurricanes and typhoons. And they take those away to make a shrimp farm. So now you're growing shrimp and you're selling it around the world, Kingo, jumbo prawns and all that stuff. You go to the restaurant and you get 16 shrimp for $2. It's so cheap. But then when the typhoon hits Vietnam, it destroys the village because there's no protection anymore. Another ecosystem impact of going for a resource, right? I've seen many examples in Indonesia, for example, where all of the mangrove is cut down and turned into shrimp farms, and the mangrove is in a national park. How is it possible that it's in a national park they can do this? It's because the politicians who run the provinces own the mangrove farm. And they just ignore the law because it's corruption. Right? So if you're a little villager and you want to start something, you'll be put in jail. But if you're the big boss, no problem. You can destroy the park. Okay? And that happens again and again. I just read the same example in Romania. It happens all the time. Anyway, that's the lessons from fisheries. See you guys in a week and a half.